Thank you so much to Bill Browder and the Magnitsky Justice Campaign for making this award evening an annual November tradition. And thank you above all, I think I speak on behalf of many people in this room, for finding a way, even in these crazy times, to bring us together. I think what we missed most of all over these past 18 months has been seeing the faces of our friends, and it's good to see so many here this evening. Since 1973, Freedom House has published its annual Freedom in the World Index, ranking countries according to their respect for political liberties and civil rights. If one looked at the map of Europe, say 35 years ago, nothing by historical standards, half of the continent would be marked in purple, not free. The progress since that time has been astounding, and today there are only two dictatorships, two purple-marked countries left on the map of Europe. But they are, of course, the two countries that are closest to the hearts of many people in this room. My own country, Russia, and the country of our next award recipient, the Republic of Belarus. Vladimir Putin and Alexander Lukashenko, Europe's last two dictators. They reportedly hate each other on a personal basis, but their regimes feed off each other, learn from each other, support each other, and parrot each other in their practices of repression. Murder, torture, wrongful imprisonment have become routine in these regimes' treatment of their opponents and their societies. But despite the horrendous repression, there are people both in Russia and in Belarus who are willing to stand up for what they believe in, to stand up for the dignity and freedom of their fellow citizens, despite the dangers, despite the risks, despite the cost. One of them is Maria Kalesnikava. A professional musician, a virtuosa flute player, she had never been involved in politics until last year, when she simply could not stand aside. As campaign manager for imprisoned opposition leader Viktor Babariko, and later as co-chair of the campaign for unified opposition presidential candidate Svetlana Tikhanovskaya, Maria became one of the faces of the movement for change. This sign she would make with her hands at rallies and meetings across the country, a sign of love, a sign of hope, would come to symbolize civic resistance to dictatorship. And when the Lukashenko regime wanted to forcibly throw her out of the country, literally driving her to the Ukrainian border post and trying to push her across, she tore her own passport, choosing to remain alongside her people, even if that meant unjust imprisonment. In Maria's case, the sentence was 11 years. The protests in Belarus may have been quashed for now, but the movement they have unleashed is not going anywhere. And speaking as a historian in my former life, I know that there will come a day when all of Europe on that Freedom House map is purple-free. And when that day comes, it will be because of people like Maria Kalesnikava. It is my distinct honor to present the 2021 Magnitsky Award for Outstanding Opposition Figure to Maria Kalesnikava of the Republic of Belarus, and to accept the recognition, I would like to call on this stage Natalia Kaleda of the Free Belarus Theatre, the recipients of last year's Magnitsky Award for Courage Under Fire. Natalia.
Thank you, Vladimir. It's a great pleasure to get this award from Masha, from you especially. You know very well what it means to fight with dictators. The only thing that I will probably argue a bit with you in terms of two dictators, and it's two last dictators of Europe, we continue to insist that this is the last dictator of Europe in Belarus, and Putin is dictator of Eurasia. The only. But we will go into historian conversation later about that. I would like to begin by reading a short message from Maria. It was possible to get that message out of jail. We've been working on it for a month. It's a very short one. And then she asked me to add a couple of words. But as Eastern Europeans, we don't do a couple of words. We know that we ran out of time. We know the closing building is coming very soon, but we'll do it anyway. So a message from Maria. I would like to share this Magnitsky award with my friends, with Belarusians who, like me, are in prison. Together, we are on this difficult path, full of injustice and lawlessness. Yet, we know that human dignity, freedom, and justice are worth the fight. That's Maria. And now, a couple of paragraphs from me. For the last 27 years, I hit very similar stages because dictatorship in Belarus is for 27 years. All people who came up today on stage before us, it's possible to combine all their stories and imagine all those numbers and imagine all those tortures and put that into Belarus because all of it is happening there. And for the past 20 years, I'm talking about the dangers of expanding dictatorship, about the risk of turning a blind eye, and yet we're still here talking about why people like Alexander Pavlovich are more often than not denied visitation rights to this wrongly imprisoned daughter. I'm grateful to Bill Browder, without question, a man who continues to do his absolute best to keep Belarus on agenda, while so many are willing to sweep it under the carpet of the general Russian sphere of influence and undermine Lukashenko's all cruelty towards his people and danger to the world. It is indeed very hard to focus on Belarus as its own entity with both the West and Lukashenko are selling its middle ground, a place to hold Minsk-Torsk or a place for migrants to enter the EU, but not dictatorship. Well, let me make it easy for you. Let me put a name to the country which seems to be so easily overlooked. Alexander Pavlovich Kalesnikov is the father of Maria Kalesnikava, who is being awarded here tonight. And while we get back to her, let's focus on him for a moment. For us, Maria is a resilient woman willing to make huge sacrifice for the freedom of her country. But for him, she is just a little girl, his little girl, who has been held against her will for 8 months in solitary confinement that is recognized by UN as a torture. Silenced by the usurper who stole Belarus from its own people. Belarus is a stolen land from people by dictator. Belarus today is not only a country of heroes willing to fight for justice, it's a country of parents who cry themselves to sleep, not knowing where their children are, who wake up at 6 a.m. to stand up in queues in the hope that their food parcels will be accepted in jail doors, who nurse their children in hospitals after rapes and tortures they went through in jails, who mourn the death of their children in incarceration, and who sadly die themselves, unable to hear the suffering their loved ones underwent. But let's look broader. The parents of brave Belarusians are not the only ones suffering injustice by the hands of the regime. Just yesterday, the parents of 19-year-old Syrian refugee Ahmad al-Hassan found out that their only son drowned at the river Bug on the Polish-Belarusian border. And he has a name, not just numbers of so-called migrants. It's a clear exploitation of refugees and humans that we have at the Polish-Belarusian border. He was forced into the river by Belarusian border control. They made obviously no attempts to save him. In fact, his body was left there and only to be found by Polish divers a few days later. We're talking about a regime where people are expendable. In fact, people are the only commodity of the otherwise resource-poor country. To quote President Václav Havel, who was life patron of Belarus Free Theater, it is with horror how swiftly we are all abandoning position which only yesterday we refused to desert. What social conscience only yesterday regarded as improper is today casually executed. Tomorrow it will be eventually be brought natural, and the day after be held as a model of behavior. And so, with all of my heart, and with hearts of all parents whose children are in Belarus jails like Maria, I appeal to you who could make those changes. Don't let this become the model of behavior. Through once again, it's easy to disregard Belarus and consider it a threat only to its own people. With Kremlin involvement and the rise of hybrid warfare, championed by two dictators, the totalitarian regime in Belarus is no longer a threat just to Belarusians. It is a threat to you. It's a threat to democracy and its sheer survival of free word. The wait-and-see approach favored by EU officials can prove itself to be a tipping point in the iron-making of democracy. Alexander Pavlovich could only see his daughter Maria through a prison window. We must break that window in order for families to get reunited, in order for the European continent to be stable. But EU, UK, United States must move from wait to see. Otherwise, hijacking of airplanes, kidnappings of people, tortures and rape will be happening on the money of all those money bags of Lukashenko who drawing their money here in London. In the center of London, it's very easy to have offshore. So you must stop it. Magnitsky is exactly that particular tool where you could act. And now, it's my pleasure to introduce members of our company, of Belarus Free Theatre Ensemble, who went through jail, through tortures, been completely naked and stripped down in jail. They've been infected by COVID because they've been sitting in 20-meter cell with 60 other people, as COVID is used as another lethal weapon by the dictator. But today they're here with us in order to sing a song with a hope, because we could convert hope into dreams, and dreams could become true if we act on them and stop talking, what I will do now.